Chapter 20 The Great Gum Machine. Mr. Wonka led the party over to a gigantic machine that stood in the very center of the inventing room. It was a mountain of gleaming metal that towered high above the children and their parents. Out of the very top of it, there sprouted hundreds and hundreds of thin glass tubes, and the glass tubes all curled downwards and came together in a bunch and hung suspended over an enormous round tub as big as a bath. "Here we go!" cried Mr. Wonka, and he pushed 3 different buttons on the side of the machine. A second later, a mighty rumbling sound came from inside it, and the whole machine began to shake most frighteningly, and the steam began hissing out all over it. And then suddenly the watchers noticed the runny stuff was pouring out down the sides of all the hundreds of little glass tubes and squirting out into the great tub below. And in every single tub, the runny stuff was a different color, so that all the colors of the rainbow, and many others as well, came sloshing and splashing into the tub. It was a lovely sight. Lovely thing. And when the tub was nearly full, Mr. Wonka pushed another button, and immediately the running stuff stopped running out of the tubes, and the rumbling sound disappeared, and the whizzing, whirring sound took its place. Then the giant whizzer started whizzing round inside the enormous tub, mixing up all the different colors like an ice cream soda. Gradually the mixture began to froth. It became frothier and frothier, and it turned from blue to white to green to brown to yellow and then back to blue again. "Watch," said Mr. Wonka. Click went the machine, and the wizard stopped whizzing. And now came sort of a sucking sound, and very quickly all the blue frothy mixture in the huge basin was sucked back into the stomach of the machine. There was a moment of silence. Then a few weird rumblings were heard. Then silence again. Then suddenly the machine let out a monstrous, mighty groan, and at the same moment a tiny drawer, no bigger than the drawer in a slot machine, popped out the side of the machine. And in the drawer there lay something so small and tiny and thin and gray that everyone thought it must be a mistake. The thing looked like a little stripe of gray cardboard. The children and their parents all stared at the little gray strip lying in the drawer. "You mean that's all?" said Mike Teavee, disgusted. "That's all," said Mr. Wonka. "Do you know what it is?" There was a pause. That is the image of the machine. Then suddenly Violet, the goofy gum-chewing girl, let out a yell of excitement. "By gum, it's gum!" she shrieked. "It's a stick of chewing gum." "Right you are," cried Mr. Wonka, slapping Violet hard in the back. "It's a stick of gum. It's a stick of the most amazing, fabulous, and sensational gum in the world." Chapter 21. Goodbye, Violet. "This gum," Mr. Wonka went on, "is my latest, my greatest, my most fascinating invention. It's a chewing gum meal. It's a tiny strip of gum lying there. It's a whole 3-course dinner by itself." "What kind of nonsense is this?" asked one of the fathers. "My dear sir," cried Mr. Wonka, "when I've started selling this gum in the shops, it will change everything. It will be the end of all kitchens and all cooking. There will be no more marketing to do. No more buying of meat and groceries. There will be no knives and forks at meal times. No plates, no washing up, no garbage, no mess. Just a little strip of Wonka's magic chewing gum, and that's all you'll ever need for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This piece of gum happens to be made of tomato soup, roast beef, and blueberry pie. But you can have almost anything you want." "What do you mean it's tomato soup, roast beef, and blueberry pie?" said Violet. "If you were to start chewing it," said Mr. Wonka, that is exactly what you get on the menu. It's absolutely amazing. You can actually feel the food going down your throat into your tummy, and you can taste it perfectly. And it fills you up. It satisfies you. It's terrific." "That's utterly impossible," said Veruca. "Just as long as it's gum," shouted Violet. "Just as long as it's a piece of gum, I can chew it, and that's for me." And she quickly took out her own world record piece of chewing gum and stuck it behind her left ear. "Come on, Mr. Wonka," she said. "Hand it over. We'll see if it works." "Now, Violet," said Mrs. Beauregard, her mother, "don't do anything silly." "I want gum," she said. "What's so silly?" "I would rather you didn't take it," said Mr. Wonka. "You see, there are a few things I haven't gotten quite right. There are still 1 or 2 things—" "Oh, to heck with that," said Violet suddenly, before Mr. Wonka could stop her, and she shot out her hand and quickly rubbed the stick of gum out of the little drawer and popped it into her mouth. At once her well-trained jaw started chewing away like a pair of tongs. "Don't!" said Mr. Wonka. "Fabulous!" shouted Violet. "It's tomato soup. It's hot and creamy and delicious. I can feel it running down my throat." "Stop! The gum isn't ready yet," said Mr. Wonka. "Of course it's ready," said Violet. "It's working beautifully. Oh, what a lovely soup it is." "Spit it out," said Mr. Wonka. "It's changing," said Violet, chewing and grinning at the same time. "The second course is coming up. Oh, it's roast beef. It's juicy and tender. Oh, boy, what a flavor. That baked potato is marvelous. It's got crispy skin, and it's filled with butter inside." "But how interesting, Violet," said Mrs. Beauregard. "You are a clever girl." "Keep chewing, kiddo," said Mr. Beauregard. "Keep right chewing, baby. This is a great day for Beauregards. Our little girl is the first person in the world to have a chewing gum meal." Everybody was sitting there watching Violet as she stood there chewing the extraordinary gum. Little Charlie was staring at her absolutely spellbound, watching her rubbery lips as they pushed and unpushed and chewing. Grandpa Joe stood behind him, gaping at the girl. Mr. Wonka was wringing out his hands. No, 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 it's not ready for eating. It isn't right. You mustn't do it. Blueberry pie, shouted Violet. Here it comes. Oh my, it's perfect. It's beautiful. It's as though I'm swallowing it. It's as though I'm chewing and swallowing great big spoonfuls of the most marvelous pie in the world. Good heavens, girl, shrieked her mother. What is happening to your nose? Oh, be quiet, mother, and let me finish it, Violet. It's turning blue! Your nose is turning as blue as a blueberry. Your mother is right, shouted Mr. Beauregard. Your whole nose has gone purple. What do you mean? Asked Violet, still chewing away. Your cheeks, said Mrs. Beauregard. They're turning blue as well. So is your chin. Your whole face is blue. Spit out the gum at once, said her father. Mercy, save us, said Mrs. Beauregard. The girl's gone blue and purple all over. Even her hair is changing color. Violet, you're turning violet. What is happening to you? I told you it wasn't quite ready yet, said Mr. Wonka, shaking his head. I'll say you have. It's not ready yet, said Mrs. Beauregard. Just look at her. Everybody was staring at Violet. What a terrible sight she was. Her face and her legs and her neck, in fact, her skin all over her body, as well as her great big mop of curly hair, had turned a brilliant purplish blue, the color of blueberry juice. It always goes wrong when it comes to dessert, said Mr. Wonka. It's the blueberry pie that does it. But I'll get it right one day. You'll see. Violet! Screamed Mrs. Beauregard. You're swelling up. I feel sick, Violet said. I feel most peculiar. I'm not surprised, said Mr. Beauregard. Great heavens, girl. You're blowing up like a balloon. Like a blueberry, said Mr. Wonka. Call a doctor, cried Mr. Beauregard. Prick her with a pin. Save her. Her body was swelling up and changing shape at such a rate that within a minute it had turned nothing less than an enormous round blue ball, a gigantic blueberry, in fact, and it remained that Violet herself was a tiny pair of legs and tiny arms sticking out of the great round fruit and the little head on top. It always happens like that, said Mr. Wonka. I've tried it 20 times in the testing room and 20 Oompa Loompas, and every one of them ends up as a blueberry. I find it most annoying. I just can't understand it. And there's Blueberry Violet. I don't want a blueberry for a daughter, said Mrs. Beauregard. Put her back to what she is this instant. Mr. Wonka clicked his fingers, and 10 Oompa Loompas appeared immediately at her side. Roll Mrs. Beauregard into a boat and take her to the juicing room at once, he said to them. The juicing room, cried Violet's mother. What are they going to do to her? Squeeze her, said Mr. Wonka. We've got to squeeze that juice out of her. After that, we'll just see how she comes out. And don't worry, Miss Beauregard. We'll get her repaired if it's the last thing I do. I'm sorry about it all. I really am. Already the 10 Oompa Loompas were rolling the enormous blueberry across the floor of the inventing room towards the door that led to the chocolate river where the boat was waiting. Mr. and Mrs. Beauregard hurried after them. The rest of the party, including little Charlie Bucket and Grandpa Joe, stood absolutely still watching them go. Listen, said Charlie. Listen, Grandpa, the Oompa Loompas in the boat outside are starting to sing. The voices, 100 of them singing together, came in loud and clear. Dear friends, we surely all agree there's almost nothing worse to see than a repulsive little bum who's always chewing gum. It's very near as bad as those who sit around and pick their nose. So please believe us when we say that chewing gum will never pay. The sticky habit's bound to send the chewer to a sticky end. Did any of you know a person called Mrs. Bigelow? This dreadful woman saw no wrong in chewing all day long. She chewed while bathing in the tub. She chewed while dancing at the club. She chewed in church and on the bus. It really was quite ludicrous. And she couldn't find her gum. She'd chew up the linoleum, or anything that's happening near a pair of boots or postman's ears, and other people's underclothes. Once she started chewing her boyfriend's nose. She went on chewing till at last her chewing muscles grew so fast that her face, her giant chin stuck out like a violin. For years and years she chewed away, consuming 50 packs a day. Until one summer eve alas, a horrid business came to pass. Miss Bigelow went late to bed. For half an hour she lay and read, chewing all the while, like some giant clockwork crocodile. At last she put her gum away upon a little special tray, and she settled back and went to sleep. She managed this by counting sheep. But now, how strange, although she slept, those massive jaws of hers still kept chewing through the night, even when there was nothing to bite. There were, you see, in such a groove, they positively had to move. The very grim it was to hear, in pitch darkness loud and clear, the sleeping woman's great big trap, opening, shutting, snap, 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 faster, faster, chop, chop, chop. The noise went on, it wouldn't stop. To pause and open extra wide, with the most tremendous chew. They bit the lady's tongue in two. Thereafter, just from chewing gum, Miss Bigelow was always dumb. She spent her life shut up in some disgusting sanatorium. That is why we'll try so hard to save Miss Violet Beauregard from suffering an equal fate. She's still quite young. It's not too late. Provided she survives the cure, we hope she does. We can't be sure. And this is them rolling her out to go get Squeeze. So now we have Violet gone. We have, who is our first? Oh, Augustus is gone too. So let's see who survives. The next chapter will be tomorrow is chapter 22.